In this presentation, we're going to be checking out the new Delta Mush Deformer inside of Maya 2016. Delta Mush makes it simpler to get to the task of animating your character by reducing the need to paint skin weights. Delta Mush calculates offsets, the deltas between the reference mesh and a smooth version. Deltas are then reused to eliminate the deformation artifacts. So in this example, we're going to set up our character with some really bad skin weights. So let's go ahead and select our joints. We'll add to our selection our character's skin. We'll jump up to the smooth bind options, and you'll notice that I have them set the max influence to 1, and we're going to use selected joints. So what we're going to have now is some skin binding on our character that's pretty bad, and we're going to see how good the Delta Mush can do at eliminating those artifacts. So let's go ahead and add on to this guy the Delta Mush Deformer. And before we get our character back into his animation, I'm going to drop that envelope down to 0. So I basically turned off the influence of that Delta Mush Deformer so we can get a sense of what that deformation looks like without any help. So we'll just get our character back into his animation. And as we start to scrub through our time slider here, we'll kind of zoom in and we'll look at a few of the problem areas on this character. So, right off the bat, you can see that these deformations do not look good at all. What we want to do is we want to use that Delta Mush Deformer to really kind of smooth out this, eliminate all this nasty looking deformation that we have on our character. So let's go ahead and you can see down here even on the back, how bad this really does look. So let's go ahead and turn on that Delta Mush Deformer and see what it can do to fix up some of these problem areas in this character's skinning here. Kind of zoom in here and look at this too. You can get a sense of how much help this really does need. So we'll jump back to the channel box. We'll grab this Delta Mush Deformer. We'll put that envelope back up to a value of 1, and you can see that as soon as we do that, look at the difference. It automatically starts to look a bit better. Kind of scroll back here, look at a couple different areas of this guy. So now what we can do is we can start to play around with some of these other attributes to try to help the Delta Mush Deformer do an even better job. So the main one that I really want to play around with is the iterations. If we put this up to something really high, you can see the difference there of how it's taken something that previously looked pretty much unusable, really, even for doing some basic animation on the character early on in the process. You'd still want to have better skin weights than what we had to begin with. And you can see as I start to drop down this envelope, the influence that Delta Mush Deformer has. Look at this area in particular, how it's taking this area that's just completely messed up and smoothing that out. If we drop down this displacement, this adjusts how much those deltas are getting applied to fix those deformation artifacts, and you can see the smooth version that's being used to generate those deltas. So that's just a quick example of how we can use the Delta Mush Deformer to take something that looks, really bad, layer that deformer on top of it, the Delta Mush Deformer on top of it, and have it eliminate all those deformation artifacts and get to a character that, as we start to scrub through our time slider now, looks really nice. Thanks for taking the time to check out the new Delta Mush Deformer inside of Maya 2016. Cheers, everyone.